Another week has come to an end and we get to see how our favorite movies are doing financially. This is a show that I like to call Box Office Highlight Reel, essentially the ESPN for film fans, where we break down the domestic weekend performers, how big the films are playing at a global scale, and what blockbusters have become successful and which ones have fallen flat on their faces. We have a lot to talk about, so let's tear this thing open and see what's cooking. In first place this weekend, with an amazing hold, is the bedazzled box office queen herself, Barbie, with another record-breaking $93 million, dropping only 42.6% in its second weekend. In second place, also in its second weekend, is Oppenheimer, which also had an amazing hold of 44%, with a spectacular $46 million. In third place this weekend in its actual debut is Haunted Mansion, with a very disappointing 3-day cum with just $24.2 million. In fourth place in its fourth weekend is Sound of Freedom with another $12.41 million, dropping only 37.4%. Kind of a crazy run for this movie here in the United States. Very impressive though. And rounding out the top 5 is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, dropping another 44.6% with a $10.73 million 3-day haul. An impressive weekend for the box office overall. All top 5 movies dropped less than 45%. Now moving on to the top 10 American films of the year so far, we actually have some crazy movement. In first place still is The Mario Brothers with $1.35 billion. In second place is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with $844 million. Moving into the list at number 3 is Barbie with $774 million. That drops Fast X down to 4th place with $704 million. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse at $682 million. In 6th place is The Little Mermaid with $561 million. In 7th place is Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania with $476 million. Moving up 2 spots to 8th place is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 with $448 million. Moving down to 9th place is Transformers Rise of the Beasts with $429 million. And rounding up the top 10 is John Wick Chapter 4 with $426 million. Moving on to the Profitability Calculator, movie studios don't get all the revenue back. In fact, they only get 2/3 of the domestic take, and across the rest of the world, the take is only around 45%. How we calculate profitability is we combine the production budget with the advertising costs. Advertising is hard to find numbers on, so if nothing is reported, it's usually half of the production budget but not greater than $100 million. We then compare the total spend with the studio take, and the sum of this determines our ROI, which is return on investment. Just to keep my sanity and save your time, I only include movies that are passing their 45-day theatrical window and talk about the financials of the new movies just for fun. First off is Elemental with a reported budget of $200 million and an approximate marketing budget of around $100 million. That brings the spend to around $300 million. So far, the film has grossed $395.28 million worldwide. Domestically, the film has grossed $144.98 million, and internationally, the film has grossed $250.3 million. That brings our global take down to $208.33 million, and against a $300 million spend, the return on investment is negative $91.67 million for Pixar Animation Studios. The film will not turn a profit in the theatrical market, but animated movies make a killing on at-home markets for obvious reasons. And judging by how Disney used to put Pixar movies straight to streaming to begin with, I have no doubt that the film will be profitable overall in the long run for Pixar Animation Studios. As for the cinemas though, Elemental is a definitive box office bomb. Also passing the 45-day threshold is The Flash, and things are looking pretty terrible. With a reported budget of $220 million and another reported $110 million in marketing, that brings the total spend to around $330 million. So far, the film has grossed only $268.10 million worldwide. Domestically, the film has grossed $107.70 million, and internationally, the film has grossed $160.4 million. That brings our global take to $143.26 million. Against a $330 million spend, the return on investment is negative $186.74 million for Warner Brothers. This loss is massive, and its performance in every market has been abysmal. There is no way that this film has even a chance of being anything but a massive disaster for Warner Brothers. The Flash is a definitive box office bomb. Now for the new kid on the block, Disney's Haunted Mansion. With a reported budget of $158 million and an approximate marketing budget of around $79 million, that brings the spend to around $237 million. So far, the film has grossed only $33 million worldwide. Domestically, the film has grossed $24.2 million, and internationally, the film has grossed only $9.10 million. That brings our global take down to $20.07 million, and against a $237 million spend, the return on investment is negative $216.93 million for Disney Studios. Disney is sinking right now. This is not sustainable. To my recollection, Disney has not turned a profit with any of their blockbusters this year other than Guardians of the Galaxy. It's unfortunate, but it looks like Haunted Mansion will be another massive bomb, but we'll see what happens over the course of the next month and a half. Next week, Paramount's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem will be swinging into theaters with a projected $27 to $36 million debut, and just 2 days later, the Meg 2 will be chopping up some extra box office dollars with a projected $22 to $27 million. It'll be busy at the cinemas next week, but I can't wait to talk about it and so much more on next week's highlight reel. Thanks for stopping by and checking out the video. My goal is to have an international group of film lovers that can come together and talk about their favorite niche in the whole wide world, movies. So without further ado, go down below and let me know what your thoughts are on the topic. I might not agree, but your opinion always matters, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.